was due to the fact that the Climate Vulnerable Forum was in attendance and had changed time slot for the Ray of the Day Award, which was bestowed on it just moments ago. And so thank you very much for your patience. I'm with UNDP, which acts as a secretariat, and I'm just going to introduce to you the panel, and then we'll give the floor to the chair of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, being represented by His Excellency the Secretary for the Philippines. So I have on my left the representative of Bangladesh, then the chair from Philippines, and at the end of the table is Dr. Monica Rai, who's with the expert advisors group to the CVF. This is an opportunity to hear a few words further to the CVF activities yesterday, and also a chance to ask some questions to the delegates involved. Your Excellency.
First of all, thank you very much for your patience. We got some of the schedules mixed up. I'm Nerik Acosta. I'm from the Philippines. As Presidential Advisor for Environmental Protection at the Office of the President, we were all with our President yesterday as he chaired the Climate Vulnerability Forum, and our Finance Minister was also as head of the V20. And along with Costa Rica and Bangladesh and Ethiopia, we're very, in many ways, proud about the fact that we were able to band together and make not just strong statements, but a real call to action amongst the vulnerable countries around the world. And that, as the President said yesterday, our President, Benigno Aquino, says that individually we are already survivors. Collectively, we are a force towards a fairer, more climate proactive world. And it is about decarbonizing as much as we could towards 2050, towards a 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. And the fact that we also want to emphasize that for all of what we're working on individually, but also as a collective of vulnerable countries, this is upholding fundamental human rights of everyone to be resilient. Fundamental human rights of billions of people around the world who have to be less vulnerable and to come together with more of these innovations and towards shifting to a more carbon neutral economies. So that was the spirit of what we brought to our Climate Vulnerability Forum yesterday. The President is left, but many of us are staying, obviously. But we will continue to carry this flag, and for 40 or so counting members already of the Climate Vulnerability Forum. Thank you.
And now invite the representative of Bangladesh to make a few remarks.
Hello, good evening. I'm representing the government of Bangladesh. I'm director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In fact, Bangladesh has remained involved with the CVF for a long time, since its beginning, and we remain very committed to its cause. And just yesterday we adopted the Manila Paris Declaration, which we feel, and it gives us great pride that this really worked as a very, just before the legally binding agreement that we are expecting to come out of this negotiation. This CVF declaration will act as a catalyst, and this will be a spokesperson for all the climate vulnerable countries who are the members of CVF. And you know that one of our greatest achievements is that the number of our members is growing, which does not mean that we are happy that our number is growing. Rather, it's worrying that the number of climate vulnerable countries is growing. But it gives us a sense of purpose that we are united, and this forum has given us the platform to work unitedly for a 1.5 degree or below 1.5 degree temperature goal. With these few words, I give you to Matthew.
And now invite the representative of Bangladesh to make a few remarks.
Hello, good evening. I'm representing the government of Bangladesh. I'm director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In fact, Bangladesh has remained involved with the CVF for a long time, since its beginning, and we remain very committed to its cause. And
now just invite a comment from the representative of the Expert Advisors Group to the CBF, Dr. Raya.
Thank you. What I wanted to emphasize, given that you're journalists, is that the CBF story is a story worth telling. Usually the negotiations tend to be portrayed in the media as a story of the big countries, the big powerful countries, and often the stories of the smaller ones get sidelined. And what I wanted to emphasize is that this is a story not just because these countries are vulnerable, but because they are coming to this very difficult negotiation and they are talking about a new pathway, about the ability of these countries to work together, to reinvent a sense of solidarity, and to say to the world that these countries can do a lot with their own talent and resources, and imagine what these countries could do if they receive more support and more solidarity from everybody else. So it is a very empowering story because they are not here to say we are vulnerable and we are victims. They are here to say something very constructive, which is we are here to lead by example. And if you look at the declaration, if you look at the action plan, if you look at the V20, the Forum of Finance Ministers of these countries, what you will find is a story where these countries are saying we want to be louder together, but we want to inspire and we want to be part of the solution. So it is very important for us here to get all the help that we can in order to tell that story out there outside these walls. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's about 10 minutes left. If anybody wanted to take the opportunity to ask a question, if you could just identify yourself if that is the case and to whom your question would be directed.
Katrina McLaughlin with the Verve. Will the finance ministers of the new countries join the V20?
Well, our finance minister was, in fact, before the president spoke yesterday, spoke as chair of V20, and that is more than a signal strong enough to say that when you want to be less vulnerable and more resilient, you have to have the full backing of all of these finance mechanisms. You've got to have ministries like our ministers of finance to take charge. And that was our clear message yesterday with our own minister. But I'm sure that that is also for the rest of our co-vulnerable countries, really looking at the doables. So from vulnerable to making sure we're able to have those mechanisms to access as well as to bring together those kinds of financing mechanisms support.
And indeed, to clarify that, the V20 is the finance ministers of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, so it's open to all members.
Hi, Charlie McGatz with the New Republic. Yesterday at the event, there was a lot of talk about a goal of 1.5 degree climate increase, but my understanding coming into this conference was that even 2 degrees was probably going to be off the table in terms of a final agreement. So is that a real position that you're going to insist upon, or is that a negotiating position that you're hoping is going to result in some kind of middle ground?
Thank you for your question. In fact, this is the CBF is not a negotiating group in this negotiation for legally binding agreement or at the UNFCCC, but it's as I have told earlier also, Mr. has also mentioned, that this is a forum from where the climate vulnerable developing countries will raise their voice and are raising their voice for a 1.5 degree goal. But as you know, since negotiation is going on, we really don't want to say anything that will prejudge the process, and these are still very much bracketed. Negotiation is still going on, so at this point we can't say what is really going to happen, but we will remain united in our position, and we will try our best to push it. Thank you very much.
I'd like to add something that was very present in Manila, because there was a Manila meeting a few weeks ago. And one of the powerful things that were said there is that these countries are going to remind the world what is at stake, because even if we go to a world of 2 degrees, not everybody will be safe. So these countries are here to remind the world that if the world doesn't take 1.5, there will be countries that won't be okay. And it's a moral choice. And some of the countries that will be making that choice have to be reminded of that choice that they are making that will affect countries that are here. So I don't think you will find countries in this forum that are willing to say right now up front that 2 degrees is off the table. I actually think this is totally on the table, and it's still the second day of the COP, and I fundamentally believe that what they are here to say is that this is still a negotiation, and we have to wait until the end of it before we decide that 2 degrees is not going to be part of the agreement. Quite the opposite. I think there is a chance, a very strong chance, that not only will the agreement say 2 degrees, but it will keep the door open to 1.5. This is part of the reason why this forum is here at this COP, to remind the world of that choice.
I agree. We hosted the Climate Vulnerability Forum 4 weeks ago in Manila, and precisely as Monica has said. Yes, there's a lot of symbolic currency to the 1.5 degrees, but it's also deadly serious bringing it into Paris. And for all of our pre-COP21 meetings for the CVF, this has to become a battle cry for all intents and purposes.
If there are no further questions, then we can thank you very much to the panel and to you for this briefing. And there will be a number of other updates, I believe, throughout the conference from members of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. And I'm sure we'll be keeping in touch with you through the different communications channels.